Okay. Good morning, everyone. Our learning is Lila Nishmas Mindel, Mariam Bas Kalman Ruvain. Her neshama should have an aliyah. Okay, so we have been discussing the 18 decrees. Yesterday, we got a little crash course on Tumah, how Tumah works, and now we're going to be analyzing. So if you recall, we quoted a Mishnah which discussed 10 different enactments, which we're understanding to be part of these 18. And now today we are going to unpack some of those enactments that were listed in the Mishnah. So let's begin. We are one second. Okay, Eichel Rishain. You see the little bays from the Ein Mishpat? On Yadalim and Aleph, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down. The first word on the line is Truma. The next word is Ochel. So Ochel Rishon, v'Ochel Sheni. My taima gazru be'Rabbanan. Okay, so a person eats Ochel Rishon, meaning food which is Tameh, the first degree of Tumah, or they eat food which is Tameh, the second degree of Tumah. Chazal came along and said that the person is Tameh. Okay, the person becomes tamei. That's a rabbinic decree, meaning biblically, a person can only become tamei from an av hatumah. Okay, midoraisa, a person is only able to become tamei from an av hatumah. And over here, we're saying if a person eats rishon l'tumah or sheni l'tumah, they become tamei as well. Why did Chazal create such a gezerah? Why did they create such tumah? To zimnin, because sometimes the achel ochlin tmein, a person's going to eat tamei food. Okay, meaning a person's either eating tamei food, which they're allowed, you're allowed to eat tamei food. V'shakel mashkin truma. And the person's going to pick up a drink of truma. Okay, so again, imagine you're Kohen, and you have truma food in your house, you have chulin in your house, and you're eating tamei food, and then you need to wash it down. So you start drinking, v'shadi lepume, and you put it in your mouth while you still have the food in your mouth, upaslahu, and therefore, and you go ahead and you invalidate the truma that you just put into your mouth. Right? In other words, typically when a person eats something, they're eating tamei food items, it does not cause the person tamei. Chazal came along and said, no, you're tamei. Why are you tamei? Because they wanted to ensure that if they treat you as tamei, then there's no way you're going to pick up a truma drink while you're eating tamei food and put it in your mouth. But if they did not make this decree, then what's going to happen is you're going to have tamei food, you're eating the tamei food, and then you pick up this drink, you start drinking, and in your mouth, meaning you yourself, you're not going to be changed. But had Chazal not come along, even midoraisa, what's going to happen is the tamei food in your mouth, the tamei food in your mouth is going to come exposed to the truma that you're drinking now, and you're going to cause the truma to become tamei. That's an isser. And in order to prevent the person from putting truma in their mouth while they still have tamei food in their mouth, they treated the person as tamei. And once I'm tamei by eating tamei food, I'm gonna recognize and not go ahead and drink the truma drink. Got it? Right? So for this reason, they said if you eat tamei food, you become tamei. If I become tamei, then already I'm thinking, oh, well, there's no way I'm allowed to drink the truma drink. I'm tamei now. I have to become un-tamei, right? Tahar. But the point is that in doing so, it prevents the person from drinking this drink of truma while tamei food is still in their mouth. Okay? Now the Gemara goes on to the next enactment. Shosem mashkin tmein, my time of gazru be'Rabbanan tuma. Why is it that when a person drinks tamei drink, okay, the second decree in this Mishnah that we quoted in Masechah Zavin, it said that if a person drinks a tamei drink, then they become tamei as well. Okay, so enactment number 1 is you eat tamei food, you become tamei. Okay, midoraisa, eating a tamei food would not make you tamei. Now the second enactment was if you drink a tamei drink, you become tamei. Why do you need the second gezerah? Dezimnin deshasa mashkin tmein, because sometimes you're going to be drinking tamei drink. V'shakel ochlin de truma v'shadi lefume upaslahu, and you're going to go ahead and take truma food, put it in your mouth, and make it invalid, all right, and cause the truma food that you now add into your mouth. Right, I'm drinking, and there's liquid in my mouth. Then I go ahead and I pick up a piece of, piece of truma food, and I put it in my mouth, and I'm going to cause the truma food to become tamei. Asks the Gemara, hainu hach. That's literally the same thing, right? Why do you need two separate things? The Gemara says no. Ma'udatema hashchichi v'halashchichi. You would think, when you have food in your mouth, you add drink to your mouth afterwards. When you have a drink in your mouth, you typically don't add food to your mouth, right? It's kind of hard. You end up like, it doesn't work. So you may have thought that there is no reason for that second decree. The second decree, which says that if I take tamei drink and put it in my mouth, I become tamei, maybe there was no reason to decree there, because since at the end of the day, it's very rare for you, while you still have liquid in your mouth, to go ahead and add food to your mouth, right? Because it's hard to, your mouth can't do that so easily. So maybe there'd be no reason to decree. Kamash Malan, the Gemara says, no, there was two decrees. One is eating tamei food, you become tamei to prevent you from drinking truma. B, if you're drinking tamei drink, there's also a decree, even though it's hard, that because of the concern you're going to put truma food into your mouth. Bottom line is, in both cases, eating tamei food or drinking tamei drink, you are going to become tamei. Yeah.
So I understand First of all, it's a little bit strange to me that, like, this is all happening inside. The inside the mouth is what we're really concerned about, right? It's a little bit strange in that sense because you don't think of like tumatara mixing.
Yeah, until it becomes so yeah. The point brought up is like, okay, well, what's the status of things in the mouth? Meaning, I'm allowed to have like people. There's this misconception. The reason you can't have milk and meats within a certain amount of time is because they're mixing together in your stomach. That's a complete misconception. It's not true, right? Once it goes into your stomach, it loses its status of food typically. But over here, right? That's why, by the way, if I have milk first, then meat after. There's no issue, right? It's in my stomach. It's not the point. The point is not the stomach. The point is what's happening. Whatever, mouth, teeth, whatever. But similarly over here, in one's mouth, it's still food. It's still food. So granted, it's a strange scenario, but it's still food until it's swallowed and then digested and broken down, etc. But as long as it's still in my mouth, it's still food. And therefore, Chazal to come along and to protect truma, they went ahead and did so.
Right. So then my other point I would say on it is, I understand you can't just say food, and you would learn the drink first, but you could say the drink first, and you could extract
fair. Yeah, it could have. Yeah. So again, the question is, why don't just list drinks and then you would know food afterwards? I'm not sure how compelling the Gemara's question was. In other words, how strong the Gemara is asking the question. The Gemara is just trying to understand, like, why do you have to list them both as the same thing? I mean, it's not a pasuk. If it was a pasuk, we'd say, well, once you said one, we can make a kavach chomer, it's the other. But if it's not a pasuk, it's the Mishnah. The Mishnah is listing them both. We say, why do I have to spell them all out? And the Gemara is basically saying, yeah, because each one has its own. The food one is the more logical one, but the liquid one was a more of a chiddush, and that's why I just say it. Okay. Now next, the third decree in the Mishnah in Zavin, Vaba Rosha Veruba Mamayin She'uvin. My time of Gazru Be'arabanan. Okay, so one thing, the Gemara, the Mishnah said a person who puts their head and most of their body into drawn water, the Gemara said it's tamei. Now, one thing I didn't mention yesterday is that we're talking about a tivul yom in that case, meaning a person who just went to the mikvah. In that case, the person who goes to the mikvah, there, if you are then immersed or cover yourself with water on most of your body, head and most of your body, you become tamei. Okay, that's the decree. The decree is a tvul yom, someone who goes to the mikvah on that day, on that same day, and they're covering themselves in water, they become tamei. My time of Gazru Rabbanan Tuma. Why did the Chazal come along and say such a person is tamei? Amar Bibi, Amar Ravasi, Shebetchila Yotovim Meima Aros Mechunasim Ustruchen. They used to go into mikvahs in caves, and the water was like stagnant. It was like gathered water, and therefore struchen. It was like disgusting water. It was like smelly water. Okay, so V'hayu Nosna Le'am Mayim She'uvin, and therefore what they would do, they come out of the mikvah, right? Sometimes people still to this day they come out of the mikvah, they feel gross. I just went to the bath with like 150 people. I don't feel comfortable. There's a ton of chlorine. It's not really like gross. It's whatever. Fine. But the bottom line is then the water was smelly, and the person would finish going to the mikvah, and therefore they'd go ahead and they would then shower. What they would do is they pour water. They'd go in to. They'd then pour like mayim she'uvin. They pour drawn water in order to clean themselves off from the dirty water. He's chilu vasam keva, and the Gemara and this Memra concludes by saying that they went ahead and they made it like a set thing, that you have to go ahead and pour water. In other words, everyone saw, like, the child goes with his father. He says, his father takes the shower after. I have to take the shower after. So Gazru Leim Tuma, and therefore Chazal came along and they decreed Tuma in these cases. Gemara asks, my keva, what does it mean that they made it a set thing? So Amar Abaye, Sho Omrim, it wasn't just that they did it, that they would say, Lo Elu Mitarim, it wasn't the waters of the mikvah that made you tahar. Ela elu ve'elu mitarin. They would conclude, again, keep in mind, like the next generation, the child would say, you need to go into the mikvah, and then you need to take a shower. If you don't do both, it doesn't work. Amar le Rava. Rava says, Tabaya, my nafkamina, who cares? Haka tavli, behanach. As long as they're going to the mikvah, I don't care if they're taking a shower. What's the problem if they think that the shower is a necessary component? Let them think that. Who cares? So Ella, and you have to go ahead and make a decree. Ella marava sheo omrim lo elu mitarim, ella elu mitarim. They would come along and make the wrong conclusion, saying it wasn't the mikvah water that made you tahar. Since they'd see them then going into the shower, they'd say, it's not really the mikvah, it's the shower water that makes you tahar, and eventually they'd stop going to the mikvah, then you have a real problem, right? So in order to ensure that this confusion wouldn't happen, they said, you know what, you cannot take a shower after going to the mikvah, because there is a concern that people would think it makes you tameh, and therefore only go into the mikvah, don't go into the shower, in order to ensure that no one thinks that the shower is the thing which makes a person tahar. Nowadays, again, we're not makbid about this becoming tamei in this sense. A person is allowed to go to take a shower after going to the mikvah. There's some discussion about it being like disrespectful to the mikvah. If you go into the mikvah and then you take a shower after, is it seen as like not so nice? To the mikvah. Like it seems like you're implying that it's dirty. So again, not from an enactment decree, because we're not makbid about this. Again, every time you take a shower, shower, according to, as we'll see in a moment, technically we're tummy. So again, the tumah element no longer exists, but there is a discussion about should you take a shower afterwards. Some say you shouldn't take a shower after the mikvah in the mikvah house, in the place of the mikvah, because it's just disrespectful, but technically speaking, it is permitted. So again, ideally, if you feel uncomfortable in mikvah water, you might want to take a shower at home, but bottom line is, it is technically permitted. Technically, a person will become tamei, but again, we're not makbid about such tumah nowadays. Every time you take a shower, as we're about to see, a person becomes this same level of tumah, which is something we're not makbid about. So let's see that next case. Now, it's case number 4. Now, the next decree was anytime a person has 3 lugin of water, basically the amount of water that people use for a shower, anytime that is poured upon a person, they become tamei. Why did Chazal come along and make that tamei? Where did that come from? Right here, we're not talking anymore about a person going to the mikvah. Now we're saying anytime a person you took a shower this morning, you're going to take a shower later today, you're tamei. You're tamei. Why? Why in the world? Di lo ha, says the Gemara, because if they would not have made this institution, the second one, lo kaima, it would not help. The first one would not stand. In other words, because if a person comes out of the mikvah and goes into the shower, and we say you're tamei, but then I take a shower on Wednesday, and I'm not tamei, so I say showers don't make you tamei, and therefore when I go to the mikvah, I'll take a shower, and what's going to ultimately happen is the child or whatever is going to see and say, oh, it's the shower that makes you tahar and not the mikvah, and you're back to square one. In order to protect the enactment of not showering after the mikvah, they had to say that all showers make you tamei, and that's where that 4th decree comes from. Okay? Good?
We're getting pretty far.
Yes, we are getting pretty far. Yes, so Max pointing out we're getting pretty far, and it's important. So it's such an important point out. We're learning a lot of Tumah and Tara over here with Shabbos. I would point out that there is a similarity between Tumah and Tara and Shabbos. Right, we're Shabbos over here. Right, we're going on this huge tangent, a complicated tangent, all about Tumah and Tara, which for many of us makes our heads swim. But there's actually a commonality over here. You find a certain principle that with certain halachos there are many decrees. There are many layers of decree, even though we have a concept, you don't make a decree upon a decree, but even just the amount of decrees that we have are far more common by 2 things. Tumah and Tara, right, by Tumah, as well as Shabbos. Both those areas, we have significant amounts of decrees. Think about, so much of our Shabbos limitations are decrees, right? Muktzah, which, my child thinks that everything on Shabbos, like writing is Muktzah. It's not Muktzah, that's a Doraisa. Muktzah is Durabanan, right? Muktzah is so present in our lives, so much of Shabbos cannot be done because of Muktzah or Durabanans, and that is because what the basic principle is that something that is significant has many layers of protection, right? In the same way that when you drive by like a nuclear plant, there's going to be like 100 signs from like 50,000 miles out, basically saying like, do not pass, do not go, and walls and protection and security. So when you see levels of decree, what that means is Chazal are telling us that this is something very important. So you see that by Tumah and Tara, you're also going to see that by Shabbos. There are many levels of decree. On the one hand, it's draconian, it's cumbersome. Yeah, at the same time, it's their way of conveying to us, of messaging to us that this is something which is super important, and therefore we need to protect it to ensure that we don't ruin our neshamas by engaging in these things. Okay, fine. Next halacha, a fascinating one. The Sefer Torah, number 5, was that a sefer, meaning a scroll, it was also tamei. You touch a scroll, right? But that was one that really shocked us. Why is it that when you touch a Torah scroll, and we'll see maybe a Torah scroll, maybe all scrolls, you become tamei? So my tamei goes to Rabbanan Tuma. Why did Chazal come along and make it tamei? Amar Shashia shebetchilahem etzdinas ochlim de truma eitzel sefer Torah. They used to keep their truma food hidden near the Sefer Torah. Okay, again, different styles of little tiny houses and whatever. They didn't store things in the same way we did, but basically what they would do. Person got a lot of truma food, and they wanted to store it, so they'd put it next to Sefer Torah. Amru, hi kadosh, by kadosh. Why would they do so? Because they would want to remind themselves. Sometimes you put something away, you put something in a certain pile, like, oh yeah, I'm going to remember what that's for. You don't remember, right? So how am I going to remember? I store my truma food. How am I going to remember this is holy food? Why? I put it on the left shelf, not the right shelf, you forget which one's which. No, I put it next to the Sefer Torah, and therefore I know. Why to put it next to the Sefer Torah? It's just like the Sefer Torah is kadosh, so too the Truma's kadosh. It seems like a good idea. The problem was, it would ultimately cause the Sefer Torah to get ruined. Why would it get ruined? Because mice would come. Keep in mind, they had far more infestation than we do. It was quite common, and therefore mice would come, and they'd start chewing away at the Sefer Torah, and it would ruin the Sefer Torah. So yes, on the one hand, you're trying to be sensitive to Truma, so I don't mix it up, etc., but it's going to cause the Sefer Torah to get ruined. Gazri Rabbanan Tuma. Therefore, Chazal came along and said, your Sefer Torah are tameh. Okay, fine. Vayadayim. Then we said hands. Hands was the fifth one. That hands become tameh. That they are considered that they're considered tameh. Why? Mipnei sheyadayim askani osein. Because hands are dirty. They literally means they're busy. But because they're busy, therefore there was a concern that since they're busy, they touch dirty things. Right? Our hands are constantly moving; they touch dirty things, and therefore I'm going to go ahead and eat truma with dirty hands. It would be it would be a disgrace to the truma that I'm going to eat the truma with dirty hands, and therefore Chazal came along and made a gzera, your hands are tameh, in order to prevent you from touching truma with dirty hands. And we'll see later on. This is where Netilas Yadayim, as part of the institution of Netilas Yadayim, comes from. Once you wash your hands with our, in a halachic fashion, your hands become tahar, but also they become clean, right? And that's an integral part of Netilas Yadayim. They become clean, and therefore we're no longer therefore prevents the person from touching truma with dirty hands. Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to have a longer discussion about Netilas Yadayim shortly. Okay, Tana, we bring a brisa af yadayim habos machma sefer poslos esa truma. Okay, hands which touched a sefer. Meaning, and there's a discussion over here. Is this all scrolls or is this just a Sefer Torah? Major machlokas amongst the poskim, the Shulchan Aruch, and the bottom line is that the poskim say that this really includes all Sefer Torah. Anything written on a klaf is considered a sefer, and therefore is going to be included. The Ramah says the minhag is we're only for a Sefer Torah and not other Sfarim. Interesting discussion which comes up. For in most shuls they don't have the Nevi'im, the Haftorahs on a scroll, but some shuls do, right? So the question would be, do you need to have like do you need to have Atzicham? Do you need to have handles for a scroll, for a Navi scroll? So the bottom line is the minhag, as the Ramah writes, is not to. But an interesting discussion. But somebody said it's best to be stringent. Where you have this discussion also is by a Megillah. Is a Megillah scroll. There, nobody has a Atzichayim, and people touch it. Everyone touches the Megillah. So one of the later poskim say a Megillah is really, if you look at the post, this has halachic ramifications. It's called an Igeres. Excellent, very good, right? We have to fold in a certain way. It's not called a Sefer, and since it's called Igeres, no one's makbid about a Megillah. So Megillah, everyone says you could touch. Sefer Torah, everyone says you cannot touch. Sfarim in the middle, other written Sfarim of Nach. There you have machlokas poskim. Ideal to be stringent, but what to rely upon to not. We'll come back. We'll discuss in a moment. Let's just finish the Gemara. So af yadayim abos machmas sefer poslos es a truma. They pasel truma. Okay, hands that touch a sefer. Mishum dra parnach. This comes from a parnach. This is not listed in the sefer in Masechet Negayim, but this is from a memra of Rav Parnach. Damar Parnach Amar Rav Yochanan oches sefer Torah arom nikvar arom. A person who holds a sefer Torah naked gets buried naked. Aram sakadaitach. What does it mean to get buried? Meaning not that the person's naked when they touch it, but that they're touching it directly. Meaning my hand is naked, my hand is unclothed. Instead of using atzechaim or my talis or my suit or whatever, if I touch it directly, then I am buried naked. Aram sakadaitach. A person gets buried naked. What do you mean? Halachically, you need to be buried in shrouds. What's going on? Ella, Amrav Zera Aram below mitzvos. What it means, the person gets buried without mitzvos. Below mitzvos, so kedaitzach. Really? You touch a sefer Torah and that's it. Hashem removes. You lose all your mitzvos. Ela ema aram below osa mitzvah. You are naked from that mitzvah. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the way the poskim say is that there's a concept called yatzo scharo bevsedo. That sometimes you while you're gaining, you also lose the gain with your loss. Right? Sometimes you invest in something, but you've invested so much that whatever you're gaining from it, it's a wash. Right? So here too, if a person is learning Torah, part of learning Torah is the respect that we have for Torah. If a person goes ahead while they're learning Torah and they're disrespecting Torah, then whatever gain you had for learning Torah also gets lost because you are disrespecting it, right? So in other words, it's critical to respect the Sefer Torah. Whenever we learn, it's critical that we respect it. If we disrespect it, then whatever gain we have, it gets lost from us since we weren't respecting it, okay? Now, one question the Gemara asks about the history of these two gezeros. The Gemara asks, which one was decreed first? Right? Was it the second one we just learned about touching a sefer Torah that you become tameh, or is it that all hands are tameh to begin with? Right? Which one's first? If you want to say that it's the second one that was, meaning the one that we just from the longer list, that hands in general are tameh. Once we say hands are tameh, you don't need to say you touch a sefer Torah. Hands are tameh in general. No. First they decreed on touching a sefer Torah, and then they decreed about all hands, that all hands are Tameh. Okay, that's that we're gonna go to the next one, list full Yom, but we'll pick that up tomorrow. Let's just quickly summarize some of the halachos that we just saw, and that is about touching a Sefer Torah. The bottom line is, again, as we saw, some poskim are strict about other Svarim, but the Ramah says the minhag is only to be makar a Sefer Torah, and that's where we have the Atzei Chaim. You don't touch it directly. The poskim do bring down if it's necessary to move the Sefer Torah. So it comes up with like Galila sometimes, like the Torah is falling or whatever it is. So certainly if it's falling and you need to grab it, 100% it's mutter, but ideally we should always try to move it with a talus, or even doesn't have to be a talus, something in between us and the Sefer Torah. That is the ideal thing to do, to not touch it directly as a matter of respect. And this is where the minhag comes. This is a minhag. This is a chumrah. The minhag comes that people, when the Sefer Torah comes by, that they don't kiss it directly. Now, once it has the mitzbachas, once it has the cover on it, you don't really need to have something direct. You could touch the cover of the Sefer Torah and kiss it, but as an added stringency, the added demonstration of respect, just like we don't touch it when it has nothing on it, people use a talus. But again, it's 100% mutter to kiss it directly. I'll just mention as in passing since it comes up. But what is the halacha of women? Touching a Sefer Torah. So it's brought down. There is a discussion in some of the early poskim about a chumrah that was instituted about a woman who's a nida, not even going to shul while she was a nida, but it's already clear from the earliest to poskim this is a chumrah, and when it's brought down by the later poskim, basically what they say according to most poskim is that this is not instituted, this is not something which is practiced, and therefore a woman is certainly allowed to go to shul while she's a nida. She's allowed to touch the Sefer Torah the same way a man is, again the same way we are, in the sense that not touch it directly, but to touch the covering. It's the same thing, and as much as a woman's able to go to shul, she'd be able to touch the Torah. So some people are like, women go to shul, but she can't touch Torah. No, they come from the same place. So if you're comfortable with a woman going to shul, she should be comfortable with her touching the Torah. They're one and the same. There is something the Mishnah Berurah does bring down about not looking, when a woman is a nida, not looking at the Torah during Hagbah, not looking at the Ksav. That's like the level where the Mishnah Berurah concludes. But even that, there are poskim who say even that would not be an issue. But certainly to go to shul, certainly to touch the Torah, to kiss the Torah as it's passing by, that would be mutter regardless of her status of purity. Looking at it, there is a chumrah that is worthy of contemplating, but even there are those who are lenient.
What's the reason behind that?
There already, it's like I forgot the lashon of the poskim, but basically it's the reason behind it is something along the lines of the fact that that's like much more like contact with the scroll itself. Granted, it's through my eyes, but there's much more direct contact.
It's both tamei at that point, so
we're tamei anyways.
Well, we're tamei, but a woman also, who's a nida is tamei.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're becoming tamei by.
No, it's not becoming tamei. Yeah. Again, it's all born out of a stringency that came along. So again, don't shower after the mikvah. Yeah. Okay. Have a wonderful day.